Hello again.
Hello,
And your name is?
my name is Irene Avonelle Johnson Hawk,
Okay. And you were born in Tucson, Arizona in what year?
1924.
Okay. So we're continuing our discussion here of some of your friends, and
Okay,
people you knew in high school.
okay,
And we didn't get through them all last time. So let's just get started with the Aguirre family, Aguirre. They were brothers who came in the middle of the 19th century. They partnered with Steve Ochoa in their freight business. Son Epifanio, another son, and so you know a Julia Aguirre, right?
Julia was the one that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know her real well, but she was a very active girl in school.
Uh-huh.
Very bright.
Mm-hmm. What was she active in? Do you remember?
No, I don't, but I remember her. It seemed to me she was also elected as a queen or something of some activity in Tucson.
Uh-huh.
But she was an active young woman.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the Castro family came very early on. They were amongst the first non-Indian pioneers of southern Arizona. And you knew a Maria Castro.
Well, I really only knew her to say hi to her,
Mm-hmm.
but she was a very quiet, passive sort of a girl.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see here. I'm going through my list. There was a Mike Cano.
I remember him from junior high school at Safford.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember him in high school.
Uh-huh.
The girls all thought he was cute.
Oh, really? Did you think he was cute?
No.
Okay. But you don't remember him from high school at all?
No.
Okay. Other than being cute, do you remember anything about him?
No, nothing.
Oh, okay. Then there's Jessie Grace, who you say was part Mexican. Tell me about Jessie.
Well, I assume she was.
Why?
She was a very active. I liked Jessie very much. She was very outgoing and a very nice girl, and very pleasant, and she played tennis.
Uh-huh. Why did you think she was part Mexican?
She had just a little titch of an accent, and she seemed to have a lot of Mexican friends, but I don't know why, but I'm sure she was part Mexican.
Uh-huh. She was an avid tennis player?
She was a good tennis player.
Uh-huh. Okay. You know what happened to her after high school?
Well, I never ran into her again until one of our reunions.
Mm-hmm.
And she showed up at one of our reunions, and she seemed to have married and done well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There's a Gus Maison.
Oh, Dad and I like Gus so much. I didn't connect with Gus and see him after high school until we started going to the class of 40 and 41 monthly luncheons at the cafeteria. And there were a group of us that ended up hearing about it and went going. And Gus was usually there and usually came over and spent a lot of time talking with Dad and me.
Do you remember him from high school?
Yes, I remember Gus.
What stood
Not
out?
in any particular way. I just remember him being there.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but it seems to me he talked to Dad at times about Uncle Herb. I think he might have known Uncle Herb in adult life.
Okay. Dorothy Arena?
Well, Dorothy was in the office, a young woman, slender. All the kids liked Dorothy. If you were late or you had to report to the office for something, Dorothy was usually the one that talked to you. She was a nice gal.
Would you have to get a slip from her to go get to class or something?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay.
I worked in the dean of girls' office one period a day, for Calanthe, Brazelton. It was called the Dean's Committee, and she picked 4 or 5 girls to work for her in her office, senior girls. And so I saw Dorothy a lot at that time. I liked her.
Yeah. There was another student named Rodney Quiros.
Oh, Rodney was real active. He was a cute small boy, very bright, and very involved in just about, it seemed like everything, but I know it wasn't. Yeah, Rodney was a very active Mexican boy in our class.
Okay. Did you remember him coming to the after-school activities, music
What?
stuff? Do you remember him coming to any after-school activities that you were involved in, like any of the music stuff or anything like
No,
that? Okay.
I don't remember.
Okay. And Emma Salgado?
Well, let's see, it seems like I knew Emma, but it seems like she was the younger sister of, her sister might have been in my class, but I can't remember her name. But yes, I knew Emma. She was a real nice girl. Don't remember much about her, but I liked Emma.
Okay. All right, let's talk about some of the other people whose families were very heavily involved in Tucson or other places. You had a couple of classmates whose families, for some reason, were both very involved in the entertainment industry. One of whom was Jane Lowe of the Lowe's Incorporated. Lowe's Incorporated was founded by Marcus Lowe, probably her grandfather, and actually he combined various studios to form MGM Grand.
Right.
MGM.
MGM,
The
that's right.
studio. And so very big in the entertainment industry. He had 2 sons, David and I can't remember the name of the other one. So she was probably the daughter of one of the 2 sons, I was thinking, according to what you've said in the past about who she was. Talk about Jane Lowe.
Well, their name, Lowe, was Loew.
Right.
And they had something to do with, I'm not sure, but I always was under the impression her uncle was Adolphe Bonjour, the actor, and they were part of the foundation of Hollywood. They were big time Hollywood executives, and for some reason, her mother was divorced from the Lowes. I don't know who she was married to, which Lowe. And for some reason, she and her children settled in Tucson. They had a home in Alencano Estates. And Jane was in Dad's class. And we had dramatic art together.
Okay.
I remember she sat right behind me. She was a good-looking girl, not gorgeous or beautiful like Hedy DeMar, but a good-looking girl. A nice girl. Everybody liked Jane. She was one of the 2 people who had a car in that class.
So very popular.
Yeah. She married a classmate, had 4 children, I think. They divorced because he was an alcoholic. And she's remained in Tucson. I don't know. You know the Vances, Bob and Ann Vance. They were part owners of Whittaker with your uncle.
Right.
Their oldest child, Val, was a good friend of Jane's in later life. Jane wrote a book about her life as a Lowe and how privileged she was as she grew up.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't know the name of it, but you'd find it if you looked for it. Her married name was Morse. She probably would be interesting to read. I think she spent most of her summers growing up, and I don't know whether that included high school or not. back east in upstate New York on the estate of her grandfather, I think. And Dad used to change the oil in Mrs. Lowe's car, working for the station downtown. And promptly every month she'd bring it in to have the oil changed. And Dad would say to her, Mrs. Lowe, your oil is fine, you don't need to change it. Well, I have to change it every month. So Dad would change it and then put her oil in his car.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. That's hilarious.
Well, it was that or throw it away.
Yeah, that's perfectly good oil. That's funny.
And then Jane had a younger brother who's been very big in Hollywood in older years, Arthur Lowe.
Oh, okay.
And you know that name.
Sure.
And that was Jane's brother. And he stole from the station. I don't know whether he stole gas or anyway, he stole something. And Babe said, I'm going to tell your mother about this if you don't do something about it. And it scared Arthur to death. Yeah, that's all I know about the...
But you don't know what he stole or how it got discovered?
I don't remember that. Dad would remember, but I didn't.
Oh, okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
But so how much younger was Arthur? Was he on your class or? Was he
I don't remember him in school. So he was a couple of years younger at least.
Okay.
And Mrs. Lowe dated the U of A football coach at that time.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think what his name was. Castillo? I think his last name was...
Was it Art Castillo? Art?
That doesn't sound right. It was a football coach during my high school years. But he was a steady date of Mrs. Lowe's, and Jane didn't like it very much. At least that's the story. I don't know how valid that is. But yeah, Jane was a nice girl.
Was she quite popular? Had the car?
I think probably so, but I don't remember.
Right.
She was in Dad's class.
Did she put on airs at all?
Not at all.
Really
Not at all.
very much hoi polloi.
Not at all.
Yeah. But did people go to her house in El Encanto? Do you know?
I don't know.
But she stayed in Tucson.
Yeah. Married a Tucson boy.
Okay. Another individual whose family was big in the entertainment industry, completely unrelated to the Lowe's, was Walter Grauman.
Oh, Walter was a character.
Who is related to Sid Grauman, who started Grauman's Chinese Theater along with his brother David. Not quite sure what his relationship is to them, maybe a nephew or something.
Well, I'm not sure, but we all knew that he was of the Grauman Chinese Theaters. And he played drums. Da-da-da-da-da-da. He loved playing drums. And you'll see his name as producer or executive producer of shows on television even today.
Yeah, well, he was big into directing and producing and was very much into the Hollywood scene.
Yeah, right.
But did you know him at all in high school?
He didn't put on any airs, and he was just another kid having a good time in high school.
And did you hear about him after high school at all? I mean, were you in contact with him? Were you in contact with him after high school, or
no?
Did he go off probably somewhere else?
I think he went off and did his thing. I don't know what he did after high school. But he was another movie product of movies, families, who, for some reason, was a student at Tucson High.
Interesting.
I don't know anything about his family.
Yeah, two giant families of entertainment at the time.
Settled here during their high school years.
Yeah. Wonder if it had to do with health.
Don't know.
Just wondering if it had to do with health.
I don't know. Of course, we had a big movie industry here at Old Tucson.
Even back then?
Yeah.
Okay. Old Tucson was, okay, back then. So would you see famous Hollywood people around town?
No, not until later, but I think they were active at that. You might check that. I think they were making movies out there then.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on to some other people well known in Tucson, at least. J. Knox Corbett established a lumber yard in Tucson in 1894 on 6th Avenue north of the railroad tracks. And his son, Hiram Hi Corbett, was very prominent. Of course, Hi Corbett Field is named after him.
Right, a very prominent family.
And Jim Corbett, who eventually became mayor of Tucson.
Oh, quite a notorious mayor.
Was I think a year or two younger than you?
Yes,
Did you know Jim Corbett in high school?
Dad did. I didn't know him personally, no. He visited you in China.
That's right. Yeah.
He was a fun person, but a scallywag. He drank a lot.
Yeah. But likable. People liked him.
Very likable.
Yeah.
Ruthie. Her father was a veterinarian here, a doctor. She married him. What was her last name? Her mother gave me a wedding shower. Can't remember. But, Jimmy was a real popular boy.
And he parlayed that into a political career, became mayor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But did you stay in touch with him? Did you see him around after high school?
No, I didn't personally.
When you came back
no.
to settle in Tucson?
They were enough behind me that we just didn't.
Okay.
One of the men who worked for Hi Corbett, or for the Corbett Lumber Company, was the man that was a boarder at our house.
Oh.
He worked for them.
And what was his name again?
C.C. Taylor.
Oh, C.C. Taylor. Okay. Now, of course, a big-time family in Tucson is the Drachman family.
Oh, yeah.
Philip Drachman was an immigrant from Poland, arrived in Tucson around 1866.
What was his name?
Philip.
Philip.
And his son was Emmanuel, or Manny.
Oh, yeah, Manny.
Manny Drachman, who purchased Carrillo's Gardens in 1903 and went into partnership with my great-great-uncle, Nat Hawk, in Elysian Grove.
Does it mention Harry Drachman?
No, it doesn't on here. But there was a Rosalie Drachman, who was a class of 40.
Rosalie was Harry's daughter.
Was Harry's daughter.
Harry's daughter.
So it would have been Manny's brother, probably?
That I don't know. But I remember Harry was practically a resident of the Masonic Temple down in town. Downtown. He was there all the time and more or less ran it.
Really?
So he was a very prominent Mason. And everybody, all the Rainbow Girls knew Harry Drachman because he was always around when we had our meetings. And Rosalie I didn't know personally, but she wrote that book Chicken Every Sunday.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She wrote the book Chicken Every Sunday.
That's a famous book.
It's a well-known book.
Yeah.
She wrote that. And I don't know whatever happened to Rosalie. But everybody knew who she was because the Drachmans were very prominent. And Harry was a nice elderly man. At least he seemed like he was ancient to all of us girls. But he was a very prominent Mason.
Now, my friend Frank Drachman, or Brud, who I grew up with, was one of my best friends. His father was Frank Drachman.
Yeah.
Do you know if he was Harry or Manny's son?
I don't know the connections. They were all connected.
Yeah, right.
There was a relationship.
All the Drachmans were connected,
All the Drachmans were. And I don't know whether Brud, I don't know his connection.
Right.
I thought it was through Manny. But I don't know.
Okay. All right. And of course, there's Drachman Dry Cleaners that I always grew up with.
And there was Drachman Road.
Well, I said, and that's Drachman Dry Cleaners was at the corner of Drachman and Oracle.
Well, they're called
Spring now.
Was that where they were, though?
Yeah, they were at the corner of Drachman and Oracle. for so
Yeah.
long. Yeah. Well, do you remember Rosalie in high school?
No,
Oh, okay.
I don't even remember what class she was in.
But you remember her presence in high school, or
What?
you remember she was in high school. You
Well,
recall her
yeah,
being
I
around.
assume she was.
Yeah.
I never saw her.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So you didn't have a relationship with her.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. Then there are a number of other people who were prominent in Tucson whom you knew. For example, there was Dorothy Wetmore.
Oh, Dorothy was not strange, but different. A nice girl. She was in Dad's class, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And her folks homesteaded land north of Tucson.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I got the hiccups.
Mm-hmm.
North of Tucson, which is now Tucson Mall,
Yeah.
and which still belongs to the Wetmore family. When I heard a few years back that they still own that land.
Mm.
Somehow there's a legal thing with a corporation that built Tucson Mall.
Mm-hmm.
But Dorothy married a Dr. Nefson, Neffson, and the street behind our townhome is named Nefson.
Right, which goes north and south and connects with Wetmore Road,
Exactly.
which goes east and west.
Yeah.
And on the north side of Wetmore Road is Tucson Mall.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
And Uncle George, I think he sold them a pool and designed it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And he said her husband was a mess to work for, to build for.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know anything.
But you said Dorothy herself was kind of interesting.
Dorothy was a quiet girl,
Mm-hmm.
not popular with the boys, particularly, or not popular in activities.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew of her being active in anything.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, and no one even thought about her being the daughter of the people who owned Wetmore Park. They called it Wetmore Park, where the mall is now.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a huge swimming pool, and they made it a recreation area.
Oh.
And that's where they had the kids. I don't know who sponsored it, but it was the July 4th sunrise dance. They had a dance pavilion.
Mm.
The old-fashioned dance pavilion with a pool by it, like you saw in the movie that Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck were in, when she
I know what you mean.
rode something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was a recreation park people went to.
I seem to recall that it was still there when I was a kid here.
What? Yeah.
It was still,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I remember a Wetmore pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a public pool. People.
It was a
would go-
great big fun pool
Yeah.
with a slide and
Mm-hmm.
it was a great place.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was cheap to get in. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But her folks owned all that.
Interesting.
They developed it.
Uh-huh. But there's nothing about Dorothy herself that really stands out to you.
Not a thing.
Uh-huh. Now, were you close?
What?
Were you close to Dorothy?
No.
Okay, just a classmate.
Just knew her.
Yeah. Okay.
She was ahead of me a year.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But she was not a person that would start a conversation with me if she ran into me at all.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't friends.
Mm-hmm.
But
Now, after you came back to Tucson, did you connect at all, or were you involved? at all?
no.
Okay.
Dad and I neither one knew her that personally.
Okay. Then there was Peggy Bilby. There's a Bilby Road on southern part of Tucson near the airport that goes east and west. So clearly a prominent family in Tucson.
Well, Peggy and I were best friends in first grade. We lived across the street from each other on Speedway. Peggy used to say, when she'd talk about her family, my dad came here as forget how she referred to him, just as a wanderer, and and not a terribly well-educated man. And he had a teacher here, and I don't know where he went to school, who was very influential in developing him and his career. And he became a lawyer, and a very prominent lawyer, and a very highly respected lawyer. He had, his wife was not attractive at all, and an older woman than he was, but she educated him. Peggy always said her mother was responsible for her father's career and everything. But she was not attractive, and she was older, but they had Kenneth Bilby, Richard Bilby, Peggy Bilby, and then she had a younger brother. So they had 4 kids. And Peggy was the only girl. And then she died.
The mother.
The mother died, and Mr. Bilby remarried, and Peggy and I kept in touch pretty much all our lives. They built a big 2-story home in Ellen Cattle Estates. Peggy had a car in high school. There were 2 girls who had cars.
She and Jane Lowe.
She and Jane Lowe. Peggy had a little car in high school. Peggy was always, how do you describe Peggy? Very smart. Very smart. She had a high IQ. She was very involved in school, especially in the yearbook in the weekly newspaper department, the journalism. She was very good in that, and wrote for the newspaper. And I think she was on the editorial board. Everybody looked up to Peggy intellectually, but oddly enough, she was not the valedictorian of her class. Sue Lasher was. But she was a buddy of Hugh Berta and Barbara Romine, and there was a clique of girls in high school that she was a part of, and I kind of wandered around the outer edge of that because I was more involved with other girls. She was one of the 25 most whatever of the class. In the back of the yearbook, our senior yearbook, they have the 25 most not popular but most prominent seniors.
Most promising, maybe, or
I don't know what it was, and she was one of them. What else? Oh, well, you knew Peggy. You met her.
Right.
She came over and she married a really neat guy. Really a neat guy. He was with the United Press in Omaha, Nebraska. And so we reconnected in Omaha when Dad was stationed there at SAC headquarters. And in fact, she had a party for the UP people who worked under Bill and invited Dad and me. And we went. And then they came and had dinner with us on Thanksgiving, our first Thanksgiving in Omaha.
Bill Drake was his name.
Bill Drake, nice man, really a nice guy. Liked him so much. He was a real newspaper person. And they settled in Pacifica, near San Francisco, and he established a little newspaper there. And we visited them, and they took us on a day's travel, and we had to stop at every garage sale for Peggy. she was not doing well mentally by that time. And I remember she got into an argument with you about politics.
Yeah, I kind of remember that. And I have no idea. Was she the left winger, or was I a right winger, or was
She
it
was
the opposite?
She was a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat.
Okay.
The whole Bilby family was.
Okay.
They were very prominent Democrats.
Okay.
And she got into a little bit of an argument with you, and Bill was so embarrassed. He didn't like it. But they took us in their house. They had us up at their house.
I remember. Yeah.
And they had takeout because she couldn't cook anymore. Peggy wasn't able to cook. And, but that house was just unreal. It was jammed with stuff from garage sales. And Bill just didn't know what to do about it, because every time she went out in the car with Bill, they had to stop at every garage sale, and she bought junk. And then she later ended up in the hospital. I don't remember what the final problem was, but Dad and I visited her in the hospital. And that's the last time I saw Peggy.
But other than her father having a law firm, that was the source of their wealth? They weren't in the land that you know of or anything?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because they had a road named after them, and usually that has to do with land that
Yeah.
the road's built on.
I really don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I know when Dad was, I think when he was on the round the world flight, Peggy called and said, I was staying with Mom and Dad, and Mike was just an infant. And Peggy called and said, can you come tonight? Come, I forget what night, some night a few days later. I'm going to have some of our classmates over just to spend the evening together. And I said, well, Babe's not here. She said, well, come anyway. She said, everybody'd like to see you, and I'd like to see you. And I said, no, I don't think so. I don't feel comfortable coming without Babe. And Mom said, Avonelle, go. You need to go and have some break.
Yeah.
So I said, well, my mom-in-law says I should go. So I said, Peggy, I'll be there. So I spent the evening at their house on that night. And then when our little Kathy died that Christmas, she called, and there was going to be a group get together at Phyllis Brown's home. And she said, could you and Babe come? And she said, I know it's a hard time for you. And I said, oh, I don't think so. We don't want to go do something. And she said, it'll be good for you, Avonelle, and for Babe. So we went and spent the evening with some classmates at Peggy's behest. Yeah, I had a lifelong connection with Peggy.
That's nice.
She was a pill. She was rather arrogant.
Intellectually arrogant.
She was very impressed with her family place in society.
Okay.
Very, very, yeah.
Always aware that she was
aware of who she was.
Always aware that she was the smartest person in the room, probably.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Very impressed with her intellect.
Yeah, okay.
Peggy was an interesting girl.
But you managed to maintain a relationship with her.
What?
But you managed to maintain a relationship with her.
Oh, we had a good relationship.
And she obviously respected you.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a real good. She had a good relationship with all of her friends.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now you had a special relationship with Alice Vale.
Oh.
Who is a giant in Tucson, in this area, in education. There's a whole school named after her.
Oh, I loved her so much.
There's a town named after the family, I guess. Vale, Arizona. I assume it's named after the family.
Probably so.
Yeah. So talk about Alice Vale.
Oh, Frank, I love that woman. And I'm just heartsick that through stupidity I've lost the page that she wrote in my yearbook. It was the sweetest, most loving page.
Well, kind of describe what she wrote in it.
Well, she was aware that I was an orphan during my early teens. And because she had asked, first of all, Alice Vale was my Sunday school teacher. when I was in junior high and high school at the Methodist Church. Alice Rail was my homeroom teacher, so that meant every day I was connected with her. Alice Rail was my senior English class teacher. So I had a lot of connections with Alice Rail.
Now, was she like your grandmother's, would have been your grandmother's age or your mother's age?
Well, she seemed like my grandmother's age.
Okay, so she like a grandmother to you almost, okay.
And I was president of the homeroom all through high school, so we got very close. But she had us in English at the beginning of the year write an essay about our lives. And so I wrote an essay about my life up to that time. And she had a special heart feeling toward me. And I don't know why, but probably because of that, my early loss of parents.
And you recall, obviously you talked about that in your essay.
I just mentioned that my father had died when I was 4, and my mother died when I was 13, and I lived with an aunt and uncle. That's all. And when I and she wrote in it how much she loved me, and used the word love, and she said, "You're so dear to me, and I will always remember you and always love you." And it was the sweetest. When I got ready to graduate from high school, she was concerned about how I was going to get money to go to college. And I said, well, I'm going to work in the summer and save my money, and I'll have enough to go to college. And so she started telling me what I should try to do. And she said, I think you should be she said, what do you call them, car hops at the drive-in? She said, girls do that. And I said, well, thank you very much, Miss Vale, but I certainly wasn't going to be a car hop. And so she was very involved in my life during those years.
Now, was she a spinster? Was she married?
Oh, yes.
An old spinster?
An old spinster. And a homely woman. A very homely woman. But she loved her students. Loved them. And she had a reputation. Well, as an example, she asked Babe one time, she said, you were the only student body president in all my teaching who never chose me for their senior English teacher. And my husband, Babe, turned to her and he said, well, Miss Freya, I was scared to take English from you. You were a tough teacher.
So she had a reputation as being something of a disciplinarian.
A real reputation for being a real tough teacher. And boy, you had to study, you had to... And she was a lover of Shakespeare. And she would... Oh, Frank, it's hysterical. She would get into some of the scenes from Hamlet or some of these other scenes, and she would get into them so much. She threw an ink bottle one time across the room. And she threw herself across her desk. She got into Shakespeare, and she always had, during your senior year, she always had you put on scenes from some of the Shakespeare plays. You had to plan it, you had to get everything ready and give us you had to act in it. She had quite a reputation. I loved her.
So when she acted out the scenes herself, would she act all the parts out?
I don't recall, but but I know she threw her body and everything into it.
That's interesting.
She was funny.
Yeah.
And she was very highly respected on the faculty. Well, she was she was so smart. She was the sponsor and was in charge of the Cactus Chronicle, which got national awards for school newspapers. She was very proud of that chronicle. And it was a good school newspaper. Every week it was published. And I got I did have, I don't know what happened to them, a whole pile of Cactus Chronicles that Babe and I had saved. She was quite a gal.
Obviously highly respected at the time.
Oh, extremely highly respected. Yeah.
Okay. let's talk about Andy Tolson.
Oh, what a wonderful family that was. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Andy was assistant principal when Dad was student body president.
Mm-hmm.
And Dad got to know Andy real well. They were a wonderful Christian family.
Mm-hmm.
His wife was in Bible study fellowship
Mm-hmm.
when I was.
Mm-hmm.
Brad became founder and president of a well-known irrigation system here in Tucson.
No, Brad was what relation to Andy?
Son.
Okay.
And an outstanding baseball player.
Now, Andy taught, or he was the vice principal.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he was also very involved in baseball.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, I went to school with Sherry Tolson, and I don't know what her relationship.
Oh, she was Brad's daughter.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
she
Sherry
was
was Brad's
Andy's granddaughter.
Okay. And then I had a Tolson for shop in junior high
Right.
school. A Tolson was my shop teacher.
Yeah, I often wondered what the relationship was there.
Right.
I always thought he was his brother,
Whose brother? Brad's?
Andy.
Oh, Andy's brother. Okay.
I always thought that.
Okay. He may have been Brad's brother. Brad was your age.
No, Brad was younger than I.
Okay. Okay, yeah. He was my shop teacher. He did not like me.
I know, you told me that.
Yeah, I did not like shop, so he did not like
You
me.
were not a shop person.
No, but I remember Sherry was very nice in high school.
Oh, Sherry's a lovely girl.
Yeah, yeah.
Love you. And her mother, Brad's wife, her brother was a real good friend of mine and part of our gang that did things.
Who was that?
Alice Sherrill.
Oh, okay.
She married
Yeah, Alice Tolson. Yeah, I remember.
Alice Tolson.
Yeah.
We had connections with them until Brad died, I guess.
Mm.
Not close connections, but
Mm-hmm.
we connect with each other every once in a while.
Well, there's a school that's named after probably Andy.
I taught there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. B. Justice was on the faculty there,
Mm-hmm.
and I did substitute teaching there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's on the west side.
Is it Tolson Elementary or?
Yeah, elementary.
Okay. And that was named after Andy Tolson?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's named for Andy.
It's funny how these circles come full circle.
My dramatic art teacher has a school named for her.
Who's
The
that?
Cavett School.
Oh, okay.
She was a little old, mincing little woman that would go down the hallway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She seemed very old.
Now, there was another, very famous company in Tucson called the Dave Bloom and Sons,
Oh,
which was a haberdasher, men's clothing.
very high.
Very, very high class. Yeah,
Yeah.
even when I was a kid, if you want to spend some money, go to
Go to
Dave
Dave
Bloom and
Bloom.
Sons. And so Elaine Bloom, talk about Elaine Bloom. What was her relationship?
Well, Lenny was their youngest child, a girl, the only girl. They had Dave, Herb was the oldest, no, David was the oldest, then Herb, then Ted, and then Lenny.
These were the kids of the original Dave Bloom.
Of the original
Dave Bloom.
Mr. Bloom.
Okay.
And he was a short, little, very serious man,
The original Mr. Bloom.
the original.
Okay.
And his wife, Lenny's mother, was fabulous. Everybody loved Mrs. Bloom. She was so nice. And she was so welcoming to all the kids. And I had sleepovers for the lady. And
Now, I assume were they Jewish?
yes,
Okay.
oh yeah.
So you're interacting with Jewish kids, and you're not even thinking about it, I assume.
No, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Lenny had a group of friends that I still talk to. One of them that's over 100 now, Linda Prater, Linda Crawford, and Mary Ruth Cherry. You know her daughter at school. And Mary Ruth and Glenda there were about 5 of the girls. I was part of their senior day group. We always dressed up and did different things on senior day. And they asked me to be part of their group, so I was. And that was fun. And Glenda still calls me. I haven't heard from her in about 4 or 5 months, so I need to try to call and see if she's still alive. But she's had her 100th birthday. And Lady Bloom, she liked to sing, and she had a decent voice. And she was going to sing for something. It was our senior year, and of course she wanted me to play for her, so I accompanied her. And Lady I've always had a connection with her. She's dead now, but they were a family of children with Alzheimer's. Dave had very serious Alzheimer's. Ted had Alzheimer's.
Of course, it wouldn't have been called, I mean, you wouldn't have been, how do you know it was Alzheimer's? Because I don't think Alzheimer's was identified then, was it?
Well, it was later in life when they were older.
Was it? Okay.
And David died of Alzheimer's, and so did Ted. Herb didn't, as far as I'm aware. And they were all in Rotary. Dad knew them real well.
I recall, I think it was Herb Bloom who was the spokesman. He would be on the ads.
No, that was David.
Was it Dave was the spokesman?
A tall, slender.
Yeah, kind of right out of Central Casting.
With white hair.
Right, kind of right out of Central Casting.
Yeah.
Yeah, always looked good in the clothes.
With white hair.
Yeah, okay.
No, that was David.
Okay, Dave, okay.
Herb was a character. Everybody liked her. Well, we liked all of them. Lenny married a fellow during the war, David Aarons was her last name, who owned I guess he founded it too, a furniture, an office supply furniture store in Denver, Colorado. And she settled in Denver. And then she eventually, after Dave died, moved into an adult. It wasn't like this. They had their own homes, but it was in all adults. Children weren't allowed. And Dad and I visited her in her home there. It was in Durango, outside of Colorado. And Lenny would drive down to Tucson after Dave died and rent a house here for several months in the winter. And we'd all get together for lunch. Yeah, I had a connection with Lenny all my life.
And what was she like in high school?
Very, very popular, very involved. She was especially involved during the war in the Red Cross, the high school division of the Red Cross. Very involved with that. She didn't pledge a sorority, so she was very involved in the girls' group on campus, which was called Fraternities, and it was only for town girls. And Lenny was president of that, I think, one year. And I remember sometimes I sang with Lenny and Natalie Carrillo, and the three of us would sing it, get together and sing trios of the 40s music. And I remember we were invited to sing at a fraternities ceremony. And it was a formal thing.
Oh, you must have been pretty good.
Well, we were singing I'm in the Mood for Love.
And did you harmonize?
Oh, yes. I was a bottom voice.
I was going to say, were you the bottom?
Yeah. And Lenny was the middle, and Nat was, of course, the soprano. But for some reason, just like silly, dumb kids, here we are, we're still teenagers, barely. And we get to a certain point that I don't remember now in the song, and we'd all crack up. We'd all just double up, laughing for some reason. But we knew we couldn't do this when we performed. We just knew we couldn't.
Oh, so you would do this like in rehearsal or whatever?
No, just rehearsal.
Just practicing.
So we rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. We got up and we sang it, and we got to that point and cracked up. I'll never forget the embarrassment. Oh, we were in formal gowns, and the three of us singing this song, and just cracked up. It was so embarrassing.
Well, you must have been pretty good. I mean, I always think of you as a brilliant pianist, but you obviously had a decent voice.
Oh, it was decent for harmony.
Yeah.
I've always, you know me, I've always loved harmony.
Yeah.
My piano playing.
Well, and I don't know, I tend to harmonize just when I'm listening to things. I tend to want to harmonize. It's just a natural thing.
Today,
not that I'm good at it, but
yeah.
I tend to go there. You know.
Well, people today who are real jazz pianists, they don't dwell on harmony. They do more with the right hand and very little with the left. And I always just loved harmony. I still do. I still think of how to arrange and harmonize things.
And maybe it has to do with I played tuba, and so tuba was always, harmonizing with
Right,
something else.
right.
It was never the lead.
Right. But Lenny and I had a really nice relationship. I love
nice.
Lenny.
Now, back when you were at the University of Arizona, it was still a normal situation that most fraternities and sororities did not rush Jewish kids.
Oh, right. The Jewish girls had their own sorority. Alpha, I forget the name of it. And then the boys had Zeta Beta Tau.
Okay.
And the boys had a fraternity, the Jewish boys, and the Jewish girls had theirs.
Yeah. Okay. Was that an issue? I mean, did you think about that much when you rushed that was?
Well, I just knew it was there, but I didn't think about it. No.
You didn't seem to think, that doesn't seem fair. I have pretty nice Jewish friends. Why can't they be part of the sorority? You never thought about that?
I never thought about it.
It's just the way it was.
Yeah, it's just the way it was.
Okay.
But they didn't join.
Another well-known company in Tucson is Long Realty.
Oh yeah! Oh, I love the Long Boys.
Okay, so they're you knew the kids of
They
the
were
original.
part Jewish.
But it was the older generation that founded Long Realty.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Uh-huh.
And then they had sons. Barry was the oldest. Bob was the second. I never knew any other Long kids, so I guess that's all they had. Bob was in my class. Barry was in Babe's class. Very highly respected, popular boys. Very popular.
Didn't put on airs or anything. I mean, at that time, Long Realty was established in Tucson.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
knew about it.
And they were related to the Langer Florist Company.
Okay.
Larry Langer's was a cousin or something of Bob and Barry's. And the Langer's Florist was a very well-known floral.
Yeah, I remember. Did you know Larry?
What?
Did you know Larry?
I knew him, but I didn't have any personal contact with him.
But you knew Bob Long well.
He was older.
But you knew Bob Long well. You knew Bob Long.
Oh,
well.
I dated Bob in college after Dad and I broke up.
Oh, okay.
Bob and I dated. Bob and Arabelle Yoakum, her mother owned the Arizona Mortuary. She was a widow and owned that. And Arabelle is not a terrible name. Almost
Great
as
name.
bad as Avonelle.
I like it. That's a nice name.
Arabelle Yoakum. But Arabelle and Bob were a couple in high school.
Okay.
And Bob and I served on the senior cabinet together and knew each other real well. And I was a good friend of Arabelle's. But she went off to Stevens College, the girls' school college. Stevens. That was back in the Midwest, I think.
Yeah.
And so she left town to go to college, and Bob went to the U of A. And so Bob and I were just good friends, never anything attractive other than that, but we enjoyed each other. And Bob pledged SAE fraternity, and he would invite me to the fraternity parties that freshman year, because Babe and I had broken up. And I remember he had gone hunting and brought some venison to my aunt and uncle one time when he came over for a date. But Bob and I had a good time together. And Arabelle and Bob eventually married, had kids. But the Long Boys were really nice.
Nice kids, yeah.
Oh, everybody liked him. Good. Barry was a good-looking fellow. Bob was not a good-looking man, but a nice-looking fellow. But not a really real good
It
looking
wasn't
fellow.
dreamy.
But he had a great personality.
Yeah. Now, which one eventually took over the realty? Do you know?
Barry's, well, Bob went to work after he married Arabelle.
Mm-hmm.
Bob became a funeral director,
Oh.
but it wasn't his bag.
Mm.
Apparently.
He went for Arizona Mortuary?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because Arabelle's family owned
Yeah,
Arizona
right.
Mortuary.
So he took more or less, took over more or less the Arizona Mortuary for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And Barry went with the real estate.
Okay.
And then his kids went with the real estate.
Uh-huh.
Barry's kids.
Uh-huh.
Barry married Marjorie Wheatley? No. I forget her maiden name. She was a very fine organist and a good-looking girl.
Mm-hmm.
We had numerous contacts with her over the years. They, Barry, the senior one of the family, when his boys started taking over, he and Marjorie, his wife, went out near Picacho Peak and bought a restaurant there and ran the restaurant.
Okay.
Marjorie even waited, was a waitress for a while with it, and they finally gave that up.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the restaurants you usually stopped at in between,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave that up. That was a hard business.
Oh, yeah.
And they bought an apple orchard out in Wilcox, Arizona.
Interesting.
And they ran this apple orchard for a long
Oh,
time.
very interesting people.
Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah.
Bright people.
Uh-huh.
No, I like the Long Boys.
Now, Arabelle Yoakum, were you close to her?
Oh yeah, Arabelle and I were good friends.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we got together at reunions and stuff. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Right.
she was a character. One of those happy. You never knew what was going to come out of her mouth. But Arabelle was a neat gal.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Interesting. There's a Cloud Road up near Sabino Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, obviously, named after a family named Cloud, and you went to school with a Joy Cloud, right?
Well, her folks and my folks knew each other when we were infants.
Oh, okay.
Her father was a tubercular victim, as my father was.
Mm-hmm.
And they both died when we were young.
Mm-hmm.
And so that left Joy with the only child of her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And Joy was a cutie.
Mm-hmm.
Not a beauty, but a cutie.
Mm-hmm.
And very popular with the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Very.
Mm-hmm. So it's not clear then that would have been the same Cloud family, because she didn't come from money that you were.
No,
aware
as
of?
far as I'm aware.
Okay, so they may not be related.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling it was.
Mm-hmm.
Because when Joy married, after we got out of school, she married a fellow named Wagoner. And when he got out of the service, they built and founded Saddleback Ranch.
Oh, uh-huh.
And boy, the girls who were closer to Joy as adults said she just worked herself to death to help get that ranch started.
Mm-hmm. Now that's up near Cloud Road, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, so probably it's later it was named Cloud Road for them, probably, for her.
Could be, I don't know.
Yeah. So they ran Saddleback, the guest ranch. Oh, interesting. Okay. Did you stay in touch with Joy?
Not in terms of riding back and forth and keeping track after we were married,
Mm-hmm.
but yes, at reunions and stuff, she had children by Buzz Wagoner,
Mm-hmm.
and he was alcoholic, and so they divorced, and Joy, she remarried. I guess that's when she remarried, what was his name? He was a doctor here in Tucson. They married, and then Joy became very caught up with COPD, I think it was, and became very ill. In the meantime, Wright Kortner was his name, Dr. Kortner. In the meantime, before she became sick, they bought property over in San Clemente, California, and she went to school and she got involved deeply in real estate before she got sick and died. The last time I really had any close relationship with her was at one of our reunions, and she was getting pretty sick by that time. But she was drinking too much, really getting loaded. And she would call me during that weekend. And I don't know what she wanted, but she would call me and talk to me for an hour. And she was in bad shape.
Too bad.
And she died. Then Wright remarried Jenny, a gal from the Midwest who was in the VIP program at the university with Babe and me.
VIP?
The docent.
Oh, docent program.
Okay. And so we got to know Wright's wife after Joy.
Let's talk about the Webb brothers.
Oh, they were great. They were great. They were a big Mormon family. And I think Carlisle, the younger one that was in my class, there were 2 or 3 older than that.
Well, let's frame this. They're musical geniuses. I mean, they're all
from the day one.
Yeah, a musical family.
Oh, okay. Very musical.
Okay, so Carlisle was your age.
When Carlisle was my age.
And by the way, he was my band director at Saguaro High School.
That's right, and he was with Dad in the high school band.
Yeah.
They were such nice boys. One of them was in the. I just had it in my mind. The Wayne. A big band, very nationally known. He was in a band.
What did he play? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember the instruments they played.
Carlisle was a saxophonist.
I didn't pay attention to it, but they were such nice boys and totally music. I think you told me that Carlisle, when he was your band director, said that he thought kids were born with a horn in their mouth.
Yeah, he didn't realize till he went to school that not every kid played a musical instrument.
Yeah.
So clearly, did you know their parents?
No.
Were their parents must have been musical?
I never saw them.
But their parents must have been musical?
I don't know.
So how many Webb brothers were there? Do you remember? That you remember?
There were at least 3. There might have been more than that.
And their deal was they formed a band, right? They were the core of the jazz band, right?
Oh, yeah. They had the dance bands that were sought after when there was a dance. Oh, you hired the Webb brothers. They were called the Webb brothers. And they were good. They would play the big band charts, and it would sound just like the big bands. I mean, they were professional. Great players. Dad bought an instrument from Carlisle. That valve trombone that he had, that was Carlisle's.
Okay. But they continued to have a band throughout, even after.
Probably, they probably still have some of them. Yeah, they were very sought after.
So if you were having an event, you wanted a band, they were like number 1 on the list.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Great musicians.
Yeah.
Okay. You knew Carlisle.
I knew Carlisle. He's the only one that I really knew.
Did Dad know any of the older brothers? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know whether he did or not.
Another name, looking at it here. Oh, Sybil Giuliani.
I didn't know her personally,
Okay.
but she was a very well-known girl in school.
Mm-hmm.
They were connected with the newspaper business.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
She was ahead of me in school.
Because I remember when I went, when Ernesto Molina's dad took Ernesto and his sister Cheryl and me to the family estate or home in Huepac in Sonora. Sybil went with us.
I know that.
I remember that.
I was really surprised.
Yeah.
Was there a connection with his dad and Sybil?
Yes, but I don't know to what extent. I don't know to what extent.
And it really surprised me.
Yeah. Well, Ernesto's dad was charming.
He was what?
Very charming.
Oh, was he? I never met him.
No, he was a very charming guy. In an authentic way. In an
never
authentic
met
way.
him.
No, he was a very charming guy. Yeah, I liked him very much.
Good.
Yeah. You talked about a few other people just now. So we talked about Lane. Okay, we talked about Sarah in previous interviews. Your best friend Sarah, right? Elaine Bloom and these people. We talked about Huberta before, I think, in the previous interviews. But you just mentioned Sue Lesher and Barbara Romine. Were they good friends?
Barbara was just a friend, not a close friend. Their family were big-time realtors in Tucson.
The Leschers.
What?
You mean Romine or Lesher?
Romine.
Romine,
Sue Lesher's father was the, he was a tennis coach at the university, and he was also the registrar at the university when she was in school. Sue had an older brother, Bob Lesher, who became a lawyer. Sue's mother was a delightful, sweet woman, homely woman, but very, very good woman. And she, for some reason, the sorority I was in, years before I became an Alpha Phi, Madge Lesher had been made an honorary Alpha Phi for some reason. Or she may have been a student Alpha Phi in her day. I don't know. But she was very involved with the Alpha Phi sorority. And Sue was not going to be anything but an Alpha Phi. I mean, that was just a given. Sure, her daughter was going to be an Alpha Phi. And Sue could have been in any sorority on the campus. She was a good-looking girl, very good-looking. And one of the nicest girls I've ever known. And also valedictorian of her high school class. And there were some bright kids in that class. Not your mother included. I made the National Honor Society, but I'm sure I squeaked into it. I did not join a sorority my first year. Didn't have any money to do it. My aunt wasn't interested. I had sorority members. Clyde, my cousin's wife was a Theta, and both Everett and Clyde's wives were Thetas. And so there were sororities in the family, but I didn't join my first year. I didn't join until the second semester of my second year. And it was a stupid thing to do because I wasn't a good sorority girl. I didn't have time. Did not have time to sit at the house and get on the floor and play bridge for hours.
Well, we talked about that. Let's talk about one other person and then we'll finish. Margaret Douglas. Margaret Douglas.
Yeah.
Who taught home economics.
She was Margaret Nally.
Nally, right. She taught home economics at Tucson High, right?
Right.
And she married your cousin.
My cousin Braden.
Douglas. Talk about your relationship with her. First of all, talk about her, because I think she was quite an athlete.
Well, she was the outstanding woman athlete her senior year at the university. Her picture is on the Hall of Fame in McHale Center.
Right. And I think she was raised as an orphan.
She and her brother were in the Arizona orphanage for children and were adopted by a couple who had a very small, insignificant, but a very small ranch in Sonora.
Mm-hmm.
And they were childless, and they came to the orphanage, and they wanted to adopt, I don't know which one. She had a brother, Leonard,
Mm-hmm.
and who was older, and the two of them were in the orphanage.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be adopted separately.
Mm-hmm.
They said we go as a pair.
The kids said that.
That's what I understood.
So they were old enough to be aware of all that.
Apparently.
And kind of make demands. Okay.
Apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And or when they were put there, maybe whoever put them there said that's the only way they could be adopted. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that was. But so they wanted both of them. They wanted them so badly they took both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And took them out to the ranch. And it wasn't very long. I don't know how long they were there, but it wasn't very long. And they took them back to the orphanage. They said they couldn't afford it. Just couldn't afford having two children. So they took them back and put them back in the orphanage. And I don't know the time element between these things, but they came back to the orphanage and they said, we have to have them. We just have to have them.
Do you think it's because they loved them or they needed them to work on the ranch?
That I don't know.
Okay.
That I don't know. I hear nicer things about the wife than the Mrs. Nally than the husband.
So they took the names of the.
They adopted him.
So the Nally was the name of the people who adopted them.
Right.
Do you know her original family name?
No, but they were Irish.
Mm-hmm.
All Irish.
Mm-hmm.
And both of their parents had died when they were just really tiny children out in the Elgin area.
Elgin, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so they went back and were raised by Mr. and Mrs. Nally. And when it was high school time for them, there was no high school out there to send them to, so they brought them to Tucson, rented a house, which ended up being a house across from Mom and Dad Hawk.
Mm-hmm.
And the two of them lived alone in that house while they went to high school.
Hmm.
And when they graduated from high school, Margaret wanted to go to university so badly. She just had to go to the university. And Mr. Nally said, Leonard can go, he's a boy. He needs to go to college. But Margaret's a girl. They don't need to go to college. They need to just get married and have kids. So Margaret said, no, I'm going to college. So as I got this story from their children later, I think it was Beverly. So Margaret and her mother got their heads together because her mother said, if you want to go to college that badly, you're going to go. So with no help from the father, Margaret and her mother sold eggs and did all sorts of things that they could do to save the money to send Margaret to college. And she did go, and she excelled, as did the brother, and graduated as the outstanding woman athlete at the university, and got a job right away. She majored in PE and minored in I forget what they called it, home economics, and but she got a job at high school, Tucson High, in the PE department, and then I don't know how long she was in that department, and then she went into the homemaking department and taught there all her, until she got married, and which was in 1941. And so when she started dating Brainerd, I guess Brainerd introduced her to me. I don't know. No, I don't remember.
Brainerd was your cousin.
And Brainerd
was your mother's sister's son.
Yeah, the closest cousin I had. He was so concerned about me. He was 9 years older, and was very concerned about me when Mama died because he loved my mother so much. And anyway, Margaret just shook to me.
So she was already teaching home ec at Tucson
Oh
High.
yeah, at the high school.
So did you take her class?
No, I never took a class.
Okay, so you were just friends, basically.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you think your having been orphaned had something to do with it?
Oh, definitely.
Because she had been orphaned
I
as
think
well.
she identified with me so much,
Okay.
and so she, what would I have done without her? She made so many cute clothes for me in high school. Oh, she was always bringing over a new dress. And every time the formals came, she made a new formal for me. I remember she came over with a box, big box, and when I opened it, she had bought me a gorgeous, full-length, black velvet evening coat with a hood on it. And it was lined in beautiful white taffeta.
Wow.
It was a beautiful, I don't know whatever happened to it. But, and she made my formals, most of them. She would get her class busy, her sewing class busy, and then she'd find one girl that was about my size, and she'd fit the dress she was making for me on her to be sure that it was going to fit me. She made me the cutest clothes. I wouldn't have had very much of a wardrobe because my aunt didn't know what to do with me.
Why didn't you take home economics? Especially
I didn't like it.
Especially since she could have been your teacher.
I had to take it in the 7th grade because it was required. The dress I ended up with, 3 people could have worn at one time.
So basically you had a bad experience in junior high with home economics.
I'm so ashamed to tell this. Over the years, and one of the times was as an adult, I took sewing classes, and I flunked every one of them.
Well, you're like me in shop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Except I didn't have your genius in music to make up for it.
Well, you had genius in other places.
Oh, no.
But I flunked sewing 3 times. I was so ashamed.
So that's why you didn't take home ec at Tucson
I wasn't
High.
interested.
Yeah, so that was one of the electives you could choose, I guess.
Yeah, right.
So you chose other electives like accounts,
Right.
bookkeeping, or something like
Yeah.
that. Okay. Well, you say Margaret stopped teaching in 1941 when she got married, but she ended up at Pueblo High School as a counselor, didn't
Well, when they came back to Tucson,
she? Okay.
then she became a counselor at Pueblo High School and a dean of girls at Sabino High School.
At Sabino?
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that.
Didn't you know that?
No.
That was her last job, was teaching.
Dean of Girls at Sabino.
Dean of girls at Sabino.
Well, I think of deans of girls and boys as being very kind of...
Superfluous.
No, not superfluous. Just being kind of, not mean, but, it just kind of somebody you didn't mess around with.
Well,
and she was so sweet.
well, what she was.
But a lot of them are former PE teachers.
Well, and what she was that you don't realize, she was adamant about getting the students that she knew into college.
Oh, okay.
She helped them with their applications. She showed them how they could get some scholarships. Beverly and Sharon remember their mother mostly that way about teaching. She would get all of these paperwork out on the floor in their living room, and she'd be working on all these applications, helping these kids. I told you, Dad had an appointment with a doctor. I think he was in obstetrics. And the first visit we made to him, Dad and I are both friendly. We were asking where he grew up and where he went to school. Well, by golly, he was a Southern Arizona boy. He went to Pueblo High School. Oh, did you know Margaret Douglas? Maggie, he said. We were shocked when he said Maggie. He said, boy, did I know her. I'm here taking care of you, mainly because of Maggie Douglas.
Wow.
And we looked at him, we said, what? He said, she's the one that found a way that I could go to college when I got out of high school.
Well, that's special. That's very special.
Really special.
Okay, well, with that very positive note about a dear relative of ours, we'll end this. You're amazing.
No, I'm not.
Almost 100 years old, and you've got the sharpest memory. Anyway, to be continued. Love you.
Love you.